Welcome back to another news video. There was recently a hands-on play test provided to journalists, reviewers, select content creators. Unfortunately, I was not called on. id Software did not hit me up. Oh well, that's okay. I'm a small channel. I'm still growing. I still have a lot to prove. So instead, what I have done is I have read many articles covering this topic. I've watched several videos on YouTube from some content creators that I follow that I really value their opinions. And I've collected all that information to share with you all. Like, sub, do all the YouTube stuff. We've got a lot to cover. Let's get into it. So a common thread amongst all the people that got a chance to play this demo is that Doom: The Dark Ages has lore. Lore in Doom has always been kind of something that is in the back seat. Doom in the past, it never had a deep story. You're the Doom guy. You're supposed to blast demons and stop the Hell invasion, whether it's at the UAC moon base or Hell coming to Earth. This kind of continued into 2016 and Doom Eternal, but the Codex system is where all of the story was, where it existed. It was just full of rich lore, and you would find these Codex entries as you played the game, so they were kind of like rewards for you to read and dig in what happened in these different dimensions, and why is the Doom guy now called the Doom Slayer? Why is he so powerful? Anyhow, the cinematics would drive the player and give them enough story to know what their motivations are as the Doom Slayer. And the Codex existed hidden behind menus where you would actively have to take a break from the game and read these walls of text. Circling back to Doom: The Dark Ages, there wasn't a whole lot shared in regards to the story, and they're probably keeping most of it under wraps, so that way when it launches, it can all feel very fresh and new for the rest of us players. The introduction to the demo had quite the lore cinematic experience, which was greatly appreciated by all of the people who were playing this hands-on demo. What we got out of it is that the Slayer is essentially on a leash by the makers. If you've played 2016 or Doom Eternal, you know who the makers are. You are used as a weapon by them. They drop you onto these planets where the demon invasion is happening, and it's your job to destroy them. It's been reported that the Slayer is fighting against this control, but for now he's just a destructive weapon that's used by the makers. I think that sounds really neat, actually. Like, I have a feeling as you play the game and the story progresses, you'll slowly be gaining control again. And oh man, I just sense a big revenge story element at some point in the game. But anyhow, there were a number of cutscenes. This could be a positive or a negative, depending on your tastes. For me, I think this is great. I'm pretty sure that this is in response to a lot of player feedback from the prior games who really enjoyed the story elements of Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, but were kind of sad to see it all tucked away in this Codex section. They would much rather have the story drip fed to you as you play the game. Make these story elements part of the gameplay experience. I don't know if they could have done that in the prior games. I think Doom: The Dark Ages is special in the regards that it serves as a prequel. We read about all of the events that happened during Doom: The Dark Ages in the prior ones. Now we actually get to play through them and experience them at that moment. So that's pretty cool. So next, let's talk about the graphics engine, idTech 8. I got this information from Digital Foundry, which is an amazing YouTube channel that does deep analysis on video game graphics and technologies. John Letterman, he's the best. Not only is he technically savvy and knows his stuff, but he also has a really good sense of game design. From his experience of playing a wide variety of games. So he provided some really good insight from his playtest. But anyhow, on the tech side of things, what we can expect, at least in this demo, is that there is standard ray tracing in the game for lighting, reflections, and global illumination. This provides amazing, stunning results with these vistas being rendered in real time and highly detailed enemies and environmental details. As you're moving around through the environments, everything feels alive with trees swaying in the wind, banners affected by the wind as well as the foliage on the ground. Another key aspect about switching to a ray trace lighting system is that the lighting is dynamic. And that is important because there are a lot of dynamic objects in the game. It allows for more dynamic physics to occur in the environment and in the world. With that said, there are a lot of destructibles in the game. There are many small, medium-sized props that just get destroyed upon your interaction with them. As you're fighting demons, you're shooting, and stray bullets go and break rafters or knock chunks off of a pillar, which eventually collapses and falls. And the lighting responds naturally to those effects. I would say that is the advantage of having ray trace lighting, is that it is dynamic, therefore it allows for dynamic environment events to occur. Things don't feel so static and frozen in place like games of the prior generation. There are some things that aren't destructible, like major focal point props in the environment or large buildings. That said, though, we'll cover this later, but you can pilot a giant mech, and we'll cover that later in specific. In regards to tech as well, the performance, to no surprise, is smooth. id Software is known for just doing amazing wizardry with their engines. It's a tradition carried on even long after John Carmack, who was the original engine programmer at id back in the day. And that is amazing to hear. Currently in the game industry, we see a lot of games that are utilizing Unreal Engine, and a lot of those games feel very similar, not only visually in how they play, but even how they perform. And unfortunately, Unreal Engine has a tendency to stutter a lot as you play. That's a topic for another video. In the hands-on demo, it was revealed that it wasn't running at the highest settings. So whatever settings they had, it was utilizing ray trace lighting, reflections, and global illumination, which are generally pretty expensive features to run in real time. But idTech 8 is just running unfazed. So I can't wait to get my hands on this. I think it's going to be amazing. Reviewers were given an option to play either on PC or console, and it sounds like performance was great on both of them, with PC obviously looking the best. I can't wait to see what other graphical features we can play with when this game comes out. So let's talk about gameplay and game design. So the biggest change is that while Doom: The Dark Ages very much feels like Doom, as it's been reported, the movement feels more grounded. In Doom Eternal, you could double jump, you can dash while you're in the air, you're doing gymnastic movements off of poles and flying over demons. In Doom: The Dark Ages, you are moving around in a horizontal space as opposed to vertical. So you can jump and sprint. You can no longer do double jumps or dashes. That said, though, you are moving horizontally at a pretty decent pace, and the Doomslayer even sounds like he's heavier, which I think helps enforce the more grounded feel of the game. It was described that as you're running around the environments, you can hear his boots just thudding as he's stomping around, and that kind of cracks me up thinking about it, actually. Doom Guy's a thick boy. So yeah, it very much feels like you're a tank moving at full speed directly at demons now. The combat feels much more free-form, and it flows a lot better. You no longer have the traditional glory kills from Doom Eternal in 2016. And what I mean by that is, whenever you finished an enemy, you would go into this quick play mini cutscene of the Doomslayer dismembering, doing terrible things to these demons. While those were impressive to watch and experience, throughout the whole game, this could be completely subjective, but it does take you out of the flow state of the combat. In Doom the Dark Ages, that's no longer the case. You'll have highlights for moments when you can kill the enemy in a glory kill fashion, but it doesn't take you out of the combat when it happens. Instead, it just happens real time. That said, though, they do reserve sort of these ultimate finisher glory kill animations for big bosses in the game, so that's a nice trade-off. Save it for the more epic moments as opposed to all the cannon fodder that you're fighting against. Another thing to bring up is that in Doom Eternal, players had to focus on their kit of abilities and manage their cooldowns and rotate their different special attacks, like their chainsaw, their flame belch, and their glory kills as well, because you needed to use your abilities to manage your resources. And that became exhausting over a period of time. Resources are now dropped more naturally in combat as you use your different melee attack types. So the game does encourage you to use your shield and your melees. It feels smoother. You're not being locked into these animations, from whether it's the chainsaw or the glory kills. Instead, you are just moving in real time, making decisive choices, strategic choices, and as a result, being rewarded with resources as you flow in this combat dance with demons. Wow, am I a poet? I may need to write that one down. Anyhow, it feels like a nice marriage between modern and original Doom. Unfortunately, if you did enjoy the more vertical aerial combat of Doom Eternal, you may not like this change. So guns are still important. It is a Doom game after all. So the double barrel's back. From what I've seen in reports is the reload feels a bit slower in its fire rate. So this is probably due to the pace change that they made with the combat in the game. So they needed to ring it in to balance it all together. The single barrel shotty is also back. In one of the videos I watched, it appeared that the burst fire option is back on that. So it seems that there are upgrades for weapons. So that the whole upgrade system's back too. So that's exciting. The nail gun that we've seen in some of the trailers shoots these giant bolts. As suspected, it is extremely satisfying to use. Turning your enemies into pin cushions, filling them up with these nails, and potentially pinning them on nearby walls as well is a visual treat for Doom fans. And the Skull Crusher gun is apparently super effective in this build of the game. Not only is it the coolest looking weapon to shoot, but some reviewers were saying that they tend to use that gun a majority of the time because of how effective it is. We'll see if it ships in the state that it's currently at. I wouldn't be surprised if the devs do a balance pass on all the weapons up, to the release of the game. There's also a variant of the heavy cannon and the plasma rifles back, and there are 2 variants of it. We've seen it in the trailer. You've got your single barrel option, which, you know, is classic Doom, but then you also have the 2 double barrel sort of plasma gun, and apparently it's super effective, but it just chews through your ammo. So I can't wait to try that out. And then there was a new gun shown off in some of the videos I watched. One of the content creators I watched, he goes by G-Man Lives. You might know him. He does a lot of first-person shooters and boomer shooter coverage. Great guy, great content. Anyhow, he found a gun within a secret area of the level called the Reaver Chain Shot, and he commented that he wasn't sure if he was supposed to share it, but he did anyways on his videos. So good job, mate. It's a ball and chain gun with more range than your flail, and it does massive damage. So some of these weapons, they share ammo types, so that's going to be something that you'll have to keep in mind as you use your different guns in their different modes, managing your ammo. While a lot of the reviewers were impressed by the weapons that they were able to use, there was a common statement made that 4 hours worth of play testing wasn't enough time to really figure out weapon efficiencies. I think back to Doom Eternal, when it came to dealing with certain types of enemies, certain weapons were much more effective. Let alone the quick swapping nature of guns in Doom Eternal. Oh, which, by the way, quick weapon swapping is not in Doom the Dark Ages. So when you swap your weapons, it's a little slower. It was comparable to like how it felt swapping weapons in the original Doom games. The more I read and watched these playtests of Doom the Dark Ages, it sounds like they're just taking a lot of pages out of the original Doom playbook, which is awesome. So yeah, I think time will tell what weapon combos, weapon types are more effective against certain enemies. So we'll have to see. So yeah, once again, to sum it up, combat is awesome. May feel a little slower in comparison to Doom Eternal because weapon swapping's gone. Switching weapons feels a little slower like the original Doom. And combat feels grounded and more impactful, but it is reliant on the shield, which leads me to my next part here. So the shield and your melee abilities offer a new combat mechanic, and it is visceral and super impactful. And from what I've heard is that you're not necessarily required to use your shield in melee, but it is highly recommended, especially at higher difficulties. Similar to what the chainsaw and the flame belch did in Doom Eternal, your shield and melee attacks will drop ammo and armor shards, and this will all be dependent on the type of shield attacks and melee attacks that you use. So this is now your method of getting resources in the game. Outside of, finding resources just laid out in the map. You'll find like armor pickups and health packs, things like that. But in combat, you'll be able to stay in that flow state, that combat flow state, by using your abilities in a proper manner. So the shield obviously will block damage when you hold it up, but it can also allow for moments where you can parry a demon's attack, whether it's a melee attack or a ranged attack. And this requires some skillful timing. If you don't block or parry, you are punished. If you get hit, you take a lot of damage. And another thing too is that the shield is not invincible. The shield itself actually has like a small health meter, and the more you use it, it gradually takes damage and can eventually break. And there's a sort of a cooldown refresh that you have to wait before your shield returns. So in that moment, that could be a very dangerous situation to be in. So the shield is also used to remove armor and weapons from different enemy types. One moment that I saw play out in one of these videos is that the player had to shoot an arachnotron's weapon before it started glowing after taking enough shots, and then they used their shield to break that piece off. In another situation, they were fighting a larger demon, I'm guessing like a mini boss of sorts, and the demon had armor parts on it, and as they shot at the armor heated up and changed color, and then once it reached a certain point, you could use your shield to either bash it off or toss it and break the armor off. Another key note is that your melee punch does damage. In Doom Eternal, your melee didn't do anything unless if you had the I forgot what they called it. It was some like sort of power fist power up, but the berserk, I think. But if you did not have the berserk ability, anytime you punched an enemy with melee, like they just kind of stumbled around. Now you can actually punch enemies and it'll like destroy fodder demons if they're weak enough. Unfortunately, the chainsaw is gone, which makes me sad, but in its place you now have this shield with a chainsaw rim along its edge, so I guess that's a fair replacement. You do also have a flail, and we know that you eventually will get a large mace as an additional melee weapon. So in Doom the Dark Ages, you have to recalibrate your combat patterns that you've learned over the last 2 Doom games. You are often encouraged to stand and fight, especially against the bigger demons in the game. As you run around the map, from what I've seen in these hands-on playtests, your smaller enemies, they're easier to kill. You don't need a glory kill them, like they just kind of get pulverized as you're shooting into the hordes of demons. Mixed in those hordes of demons, you'll have these larger enemies, and some of them have shields, and those are the moments when you stand and fight. You'll sort of play this mini game of bullet hell dodging, where they'll shoot out a bunch of projectiles at you that are glowing red. Those ones you need to dodge or block. But occasionally you'll get a green one, a highlighted neon green one, and those ones you're able to parry and send back to the enemy, and that allows you time to close that distance. And then once you're in there, then it's this other game of waiting for green flash. It's this other game of waiting for green flash moments to parry the large demon's melee attacks or big hits. From all the reports, it feels extremely satisfying when you nail those parries and destroy demons, especially the larger ones. They also say that the shield throw is a lot of fun and it feels great, but it also puts you at a disadvantage when you don't have your shield. So that's a strategic element. When you decide you're going to throw your shield, make sure that you're in a sort of safe tactical combat situation to do so. That said, your shield offers you mobility options. So when you do a shield smash, you're actually doing like a dash. So that can propel you forward to move out of danger, all while killing enemies that are in that distance that you're trying to close. It gives you a certain amount of freedom in what directions you can use it, even like to reach a ledge that's higher up. As long as you have a target to use that shield bash, you can do it. The game allows you to, so your shield gives you mobility. So an example of a really cool combo was you can use your shield dash and bash an enemy, stun them, and then use your double barrel to turn them into a fine mist. And earlier we mentioned that weapons have upgrades. Well, your shield also has upgrade features as well. So one of the options is that you can use your nail gun and turn your enemies into nail cushions. So you'll see all these nails sticking out of them. And then when you hit them with your shield, they essentially turn into an AoE nail bomb. all those nails end up flying out, damaging nearby enemies. And in a similar fashion, you can even toss your shield into enemies and the shield will actively saw them, which kind of holds them in place. And then you can shoot nails into the saw as it's doing that, causing the nails to shoot outwards from your target. Pretty creative stuff. So next up, let's talk about the music for Doom: The Dark Ages. Due to unfortunate circumstances, Mick Gordon is not a part of the project, but instead we have a team called Finishing Move working on the soundtrack, and the music is a banger. It's banging on all cylinders. It is on theme, and according to everyone who's played the demo and experienced it, they say that it gets the job done. It may not sound exactly like Mick Gordon's work, but it still gets you amped up to fight demons and to play aggressively. When id Software revealed that they were bringing in Finishing Move to work on the Doom: The Dark Ages soundtrack, this kind of took me by surprise. I really thought they would lean into using Andrew Hischult, who worked on the Doom Eternal DLC soundtracks. He's got a huge background in making boomer shooter soundtracks that all sound epic, and he has a wide range from being ambient and moody to heavy metal, headbanging kind of soundtracks. I really thought he was going to work on Doom: The Dark Ages, but unfortunately not. That said, I'm willing to give Finishing Move a shot here. I'm sure they're going to do some amazing work, and I can't wait to listen to it. Before I forget, let's actually circle back a little to gameplay, game design kind of stuff. Specifically, the parts of the game that showcase the dragon and the mech suit. So I've been hearing some mixed results on this. When it comes to the parts where you fly around on a dragon, which, don't get me wrong, that sounds amazing, especially as the Doomslayer. This dragon has like mechanical laser wings. It looks fucking crazy. You're kind of forced to fly around in these like linear sections, and you have some open area spaces. There's obstacles that are in the way, and this is also where you can find some health rings. And it makes me think of like Star Fox, where you'll have these rings you can fly through, and some of them are they're placed in super challenging spots. It'll require like reflex and precision to get through those rings safely. And then those narrow areas usually lead into an open space where you'll have a flying ship that has turrets, and it's shooting at you. And to take it down, you lock onto a turret and proceed to fire at it, all while timing out dodges, similar to like your melee combat with the green and red sort of flying projectiles. You're avoiding all the red ones, and then occasionally you get the green one that you sort of send back and parry. Those are your windows to do massive damage on this flying ship. And once you take out all the turrets, you can then land on the ship, and from there you get off your dragon and proceed to kill some demons on this ship and destroy the ship's internals, creating this amazing experience where the ship's blowing up. Doomslayer leaps out, flies in the air, and then he catches his dragon mount and continues to fly off. It looks super cool. Unfortunately though, a lot of the feedback coming from the dragon combat is that it feels stiff and mechanical. It doesn't feel anywhere as satisfying as the moments where you are the Doomslayer on the ground with all the freedom and flow of movement while fighting. One of the playtesters, in their experience, they had a Bethesda rep tell them that they were still actively working on the dragon sections of the game. So hopefully they polish it up a bit more, and upon release we get something that feels a little better. And unfortunately, the giant mech segments of the game also feel a bit underwhelming. Combat on the ground as the Doomslayer feels very smooth. It flows well and has a lot of impact. Unfortunately, in the mech, similar to the dragon, when you're fighting these mega demons that are the size of skyscrapers, it boils down to timing your dodges and your parries to do massive damage. If anything, at least it feels epic in its scale and taking on enormous demons. As you navigate the space and as you're fighting, surrounding buildings get destroyed and chunks of the level sort of disintegrate as you're dodging and, you know, fighting these enormous demons. Take that as you will. Hopefully the team maybe polishes this section as well a little more before launch. So let's talk about the maps. I'm happy to say that the maps feel huge. They are wide and sprawling. You have these giant levels, and you know the team has never claimed that this is an open world game. Just think of these as like just enormous sized contained levels. You're given objectives that you can tackle in any order that you'd like, and you can even run through an area full of demons, move into another section of this level. Some of those demons, they may follow you, some of them will stay behind, so when you return to that space, they're all waiting for you. This really reminds me of the original Doom, where you can move around the map freely so long as you don't run into a locked door that requires a key. But this is a big change from Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, where you were essentially locked into arena moments, I'll call them, where you enter a space and, you know, it's predictable. You walk into a space and you're like, all right, some demons are going to spawn and I'm going to be engaged in a combat encounter here. But it would typically like lock off any exit points and force you into those moments. But in Doom the Dark Ages, you're given a lot of freedom and choice in how you navigate these environments. I'm also happy to report that secrets are of course back. Secrets are a hallmark of Doom since the very first, and they are back, and they sort of introduce creative, clever puzzles that you have to solve using your shield and your movement, and you're rewarded for it, whether it's through power-ups, pickups, and in one case, as reported, a weapon. Oh, and last thing I want to mention before we close out this video is that the face portrait is back. At the bottom of the screen of your HUD, you can see your Doomslayer's face. I wish they would have fully rendered it so you could see his stunning face in modern day 3D graphics as he, you know, raises each eyebrow, looking side to side. I think it's all going to come down to personal preference. Some people, they like the holographic appearance of his mug. Like I said, I wish they would have rendered it out. Who knows, maybe in a future patch they might do that if enough players request it. It does give you hints. The portrait will sort of look in the direction that you are taking damage. And of course, as you're losing health, because it's a holographic representation, you don't see like your face turn into hamburger meat. It does turn red and you start to see an overlay of a skull over the face, hinting that you were close to dying. So that's a nice little attention to detail and an homage back to the original Doom that I am pretty happy and satisfied to see making a return. So once again, Doom is shaking things up. Just like every mainline entry in the series, everyone is eager to play more of it, and I can't wait. We've got about a month and a half or so. The game comes out May 15th. I can't wait to play it. I haven't done a game review on this channel before, but if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. Sound off in the comments down below. And also, if you have any input on any of the features that Doom the Dark Ages is showing off in its hands-on preview, share them down in the comments as well. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you'd like to help support my efforts here, please consider subscribing. It means a lot to me, and thank you. And for more great gaming content, make sure to check out this recommended video right here. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.